Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I thought I'll do something a little bit different for you. That's why I'm kind of sitting here with no makeup on. I mentioned a few videos back I absolutely love horror and watching videos like top 5 ghosts caught on camera and top 5 hidden rooms people found in their houses. So I really wanted to mix my two kind of loves together in this video. And this is very much based on videos from Bailey Sarian, who's an amazing YouTuber. I hope I said her name right. And she does like a true crime story while she's doing her makeup, and it's absolutely amazing because you're kind of concentrating on the story, but also she's doing amazing makeup at the same time. So I thought I would do that today. But what I want to do for you guys is read you some ghost stories while I do my makeup. So it isn't an in-depth tutorial, it's just me doing my makeup and talking about doing ghost stories. So if this is your first time on my channel and you don't know who I am, my name is Robert. I'm a professional makeup artist here on YouTube and also in real life, and it's my goal here to help you become a pro yourself or just someone who's really good at makeup. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, then please consider subscribing. This isn't my usual type of video. Look at that shiny forehead. Wow. So I only have my brows on at the moment. Yeah, that's basically it. Let's get right into it. So these stories are just from around the internet, so I'll leave the links and credits below for you guys. And let me know what you think of today's video. It's just like a trial. See what you think. And let me know below if you believe in ghosts. No arguing, just opinions. So our first story today is going to be called, well, it's not going to be, it already is called Haunted on Skype. So 2010, I believe it was, or thereabouts. I was in a long distance relationship, so Skype would be our void filler for the weekends I couldn't visit. I was a single parent at the time, so we would chat at night when I was free. So set the scene. My house is a late 70s build. I always feel like the 70s was really haunted for some reason. So it came with a serving hat, which is basically a small window from the kitchen into the lounge. And my sofa sat under the hatch against the wall. The door to my lounge was to my right, so bulky laptop on the coffee table in front of me. I Skype called. I had lived in this house for about 5 years. It had always had a dark feeling. That's 5 years too long of living in a house with a dark feeling. Despite the lounge facing the sun most of the day, it still felt dark and dingy. Get yourself some candles, some nice candles. As the camera filled my screen, we started chatting and laughing, but I felt like there was something off to my right. Oh my god. I glanced a few times in case it was a child needing me or whatever. Nothing there. The chat carried on. He must have noticed I felt uncomfortable because he laughed about it, and I was mid-laugh when I saw in my periphery vision someone came into the lounge. Oh my god. The door was always open, but this being had to duck down to walk in. I could see it so clearly, but I wasn't looking at it. Still not making direct eye contact with whatever it was, I judged it to be not human. Although on 2 legs, and it was tall, so tall and muscular, but pure grey. No visible facial features or clothes or even nakedness, just grey. I was frozen maybe a minute before I swallowed hard and made myself look at it. I would not look at it. I couldn't look at it. I made direct eye contact with it. There were eyes and a smile and then nothing. There wasn't anything there, but I know I made eye contact. My partner was shouting at me and I hadn't noticed. I faced the screen again and tried to explain what I had seen, when suddenly the connection went grey. No, oh my god. The camera went grey and the connection was lost. I wasn't freaking out, just super anxious. My heart was pounding through my chest, but I redialed. His first words to me upon reconnecting were, "It looked like someone ran in front of your camera." This wasn't even the last event as such to happen in this house, but it was the first notable one. Get out the house. Listen, whenever you're watching like a haunted thing and you're like, why do these people still live in that house? It is really, really difficult to move house. It takes a lot of money, right? So you can't just like up and move. What would you do if you lived in a house for 5 years, knowing that it was haunted and there was some other thing in your house with you? It'd be really annoying if you had a ghost that just kept interfering with your internet connection. Like, that's probably one of the most annoying things about it. There's something as well when people are like, oh, it smiled at me and it had a face, but it wasn't human. There's something about stories where there's a creature in it that's mimicking human behavior or trying to be human, or you know, acting human, but not quite. That really terrifies me. I think that's what makes a really good kind of like horror. Well, that's scary. I certainly wouldn't be living there for much longer. I'm kind of going for like, if a ghost was to have a more dramatic eye look, like what would they be wearing? Okay, next story. This one is called, Hey, Come Here. No, I won't. Okay, so about 13 years ago, my sister lived in a house in a not so great neighborhood. Haven't we all? You came in through the kitchen, then the dining room, then turned left to the living room. Behind the living room was a hall to the main bathroom and all the bedrooms. The couch was positioned with its back to the hallway. At the end of the hallway was a bedroom that always creeped us out. We didn't ever go in there or in the half bath that was inside it. She mostly has boxes in there. Have you guys ever lived in a house and one room just really creeps you out? Well, my niece's nursery was right beside that room and we always had weird stuff happen in there. One time my sister was asleep and heard a voice scream one of my niece's names in her ear. Stop. She got up and ran in the nursery and saw a dark figure over the crib. Oh my God. Oh, I'm alone and I'm really scared. My niece had gotten tangled up in the crib bumpers. What's that? The figure looked at her and then disappeared. So that kind of seems helpful, right? Now, that was the least creepy thing. Really? Whenever I was over, I used to have nightmares about the main bedroom covered in blood. I have a lot of nightmares, so I never thought anything of it. Until one night, I was supposed to be babysitting while she went on date night. I would never be left alone in that house, ever. You can pay me however much you want, but the kids can look after themselves. I was laying on her couch and she was in the bathroom taking a shower. I'm just hanging out and I hear her call my name. I called out, "What?" And she yelled back, "Nothing." And I just shook it off as her being annoying. And then it happened 3 more times. Finally, I got up and stormed to the bathroom door and knocked as loud as I could. I said, "You're going to wake up the girls. Why do you keep calling me?" She was quiet for a second and said, "I'm not calling you." I was pretty creeped out, but I went to sit back on the couch to wait for her to be done showering. Then I heard the door of the back bedroom creak. I turned around, looked down the hall and saw the door open itself. And in my sister's voice, I heard it say, "Hey, come here." No. She moved out soon after. All kinds of crazy stuff happened there. We later found out that a man killed his mother in the bedroom and then killed himself a few years before she lived there. We couldn't remember the address when we found the news story, but it was on the same street. I think it was definitely in that house. Yeah, I think so too. Oh my God, that is terrifying. Did you guys ever, when you were younger, like when you were just going to bed or going to sleep, were you ever laying in bed and then it would be like suddenly you would just hear someone whisper your name, like, "Robert," even though it could have been you just like, you know, rustling your bed sheets or something like that? Can you just imagine a door of some creepy room, like peeling, just slowly opening, and then someone saying, "Hey, come here"? No. Nope. That should be a reason for like early termination of your lease. Haunting. God, men really can't multitask. I think we have time for one more. This is called The Man in Black. So already terrifying. If you were able to, like, when you died, came back as a ghost, this is a really dumb question, what would you wear if they were like, you can haunt people? I think I would wear big black sheets, and I would like stand in doorways just lifting up my arm, and they'll be like, "Oh my God, a big figure in the creepy bedroom wearing a black sheet keeps lifting his arms up." And I'll just keep saying like really cryptic stuff like, "Look behind the wall," or something like that. It must be quite fun to haunt people, I think. So, my grandmother is one of those people who seems to just be naturally susceptible to paranormal experiences. She's in her late 70s, has numerous stories about all sorts of spooky and unexplainable encounters. She used to keep me entertained for hours. Yeah, I can imagine. With me getting her to constantly tell and retell her stories again. It's the way she tells them, I think, that really invokes a sense of fear. Hopefully I can do her justice with my recounts. The house she grew up in through the 50s was haunted, undoubtedly. We'll start with a time she was walking home from school as a 10-year-old girl. She grew up in Belfast, Northern Ireland, in a typical city-style terrace house. There was no one immediately around her as she walked home from school one brisk January afternoon, except for one gentleman walking at maybe 20 yards in front of her. He was wearing a long black overcoat with a bowler hat, not something that would raise any eyebrows at the time. People used to dress so fancy, didn't they? Suddenly, my grandmother noticed the man stopped in front of her house, opened the little gate at the front of a small garden, walked for 5 yards down the path to her front door, opened it, and entered the house. Still, she thought nothing of this, simply assuming that the man was a friend of her parents or a colleague of her dad's. Oddly, when she got to her front door and went to open it, not moments after the man, the door was locked. She thought this was strange as the man just pushed it open and walked in. Yeah. Not too weird though, right? Someone may have just locked the front door. True, that's true. What was strange, however, was that upon entering the house, not 45 seconds after the man in the black did, she found herself to be the only one in the house. No parents, no man in black, no one. My grandmother often speaks of the noises she used to hear lying in bed at night, and by noises I mean horribly blood-curdling wheeze coming from, of all places, directly under her bed. This is why you get a bed with drawers underneath, for storage and for ghosts. She described it as the long, drawn-out breaths you would imagine coming from a 90-year-old, 40-a-day smoker on their deathbed. Guessing like that. This would happen night after night. She used to run downstairs to tell her mother about the man under the bed, but her mother was a stern Christian woman and would have nothing to do with it, often scolding her and sending her back to bed for telling the devil's tales. I just dropped my powder on the floor. Right, where were we? Devil's tales. She explains how she used to just cover her head with blankets and pray for the wheeze to stop, crying herself to sleep most nights. The last story I'll mention for now, again, it takes place in the same house. My great-grandfather was a policeman and often worked an irregular shift pattern. The house had a small hallway upon entering the front door, around 5 by 5 feet, just large enough for a coat rack, and the staircase to begin immediately. To your right when entering the front door was the living room. Most evenings after dinner, my grandmother would sit in the living room and listen to the radio with her sister while her mother knitted or sewed. Oh, that's cute. Rather regularly, Jesus. They would hear the front door unlock, open and close, the hall light switch flick on, and the rustle and knock of a coat being removed and thrown on the coat rack. My great-grandmother would say, "Oh, that must be your father home," or something of the sort, before going to greet him at the hallway. On numerous occasions, they wouldn't be able to find him immediately and assume he went upstairs. They would go upstairs to welcome him home, but no one was there. There would also be no coat on the coat rack. Her father would then arrive home maybe 15-20 minutes later. It just so happens that my grandmother found out years after moving out of that house that a single man had lived there alone for years and died in the very room she slept in as a child. I genuinely do believe that if a house is haunted or there's been complaints of haunting or something like that, you should like legally be told. And I know they do that in some places, don't they? They do it in like New Orleans and interesting places. Right, I'm gonna whack on some lashes quickly and then let's regroup. So that is the finished look, guys. Yes, that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I had fun reading those stories. Not that reading is my favorite thing to do, but let me know what you thought of the stories. Let me know your theories. Even if you're a skeptic and you don't believe them, I hope you enjoyed the story at least. If you have any ghost stories, I would love to hear them. Leave them in the comments below or message them to me on Instagram. Yeah, and I might feature them in the next video if I do this again. Thank you so much again for joining me, guys, and I will see you very soon. Bye.